Halloween, or should I say, Halloween. Today we're going to be discussing the pagan origins of Halloween, and we're going to be discussing the truth about this holiday so you can see the whole truth and nothing but the truth today. For many years, we have been conditioned to believe that Halloween is all about trick-or-treating and candy, bobbing for apples, pumpkin carvings and jack-o'-lanterns, skulls, skeletons, druids, bubble, toil, and trouble, as well as honoring the dead, giving homage to the dead, and paying tribute to the dead. But where does this holiday really come from, and why is it celebrated and hallowed today? That and more to come.
They ought to make the day the time changes, the first day of summer.
What?
Well, it's 8 o'clock and it's still light.
A lot of good the extra daylight does us. Now, we've still got a 3-hour drive back. We're not going to be home until after midnight.
Well, if it really bugged you, Johnny, you wouldn't do it.
You think I want to blow Sunday on a scene like this? You know, I figure we're either going to have to move Mother out here or move the grave into Pittsburgh.
She can't make a trip like this.
Oh. I wonder what happened to the one from last year. Each year we spend good money on these things. We come out here and the one from last year's gone.
Well, the flowers die and the caretaker or somebody takes them away.
Yeah, a little spit and polish. You can clean this up. Sell it next year. Wonder how many times we bought the same one. Hey, come on, Barb. Church was this morning, huh? Hey, I mean, praying's for church, huh? Come on.
I haven't seen you in church lately.
Well, there's not much sense in my going to church. Do you remember one time when we were small, we were out here? It was from right over there. I jumped out at you from behind the tree, and Grandpa got all excited, and he shook his fist at me, and he said, "Boy, you be damned to hell." Remember that? Right over there. Well, you used to really be scared here.
Johnny.
You're still afraid.
Stop it now. I mean it.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it. You're ignorant.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
Let me laugh even harder.
Stop it.
You know what always cheers me up? Laughing at other people's misfortunes.
You're acting like a child.
They're coming for you. Look, there comes one of them now.
He'll hear you.
Here he comes now. I'm getting out of here.
Johnny.
Run, bitch! Run!
As you may or may not have known, Halloween has been regarded as a celebration for thousands and thousands of years, only it originates from and traces its origins all the way back to what's known today as Samhain. Now, what Samhain is that it's one of the 8 major Celtic holidays, and it's also known as the 8th and final one, and it also marks a final Sabbath. Now, it's also known as the Witches' New Year, and it marks the end of the harvest season, halfway between the fall equinox as well as the winter solstice. Samhain is a time to celebrate the dead, as well as honor and pay homage to those who have passed on, and paying respects to the elders and their ancestors, to those who have died and passed on to another life. And during this time, many also partake in sacrifices, bonfires, pagan festivals, and dancing too. There is also magic, witchcraft, sorcery, spells, and summoning that is also involved. During this time, a lot of child sacrificing would also occur, in which children were to be sacrificed to animal idols and passed through the fire to be sacrificed, so that sacrifices could be made around the same time as Samhain. And this is also known and commonly called Molech worship, which is also practiced in present-day Hollywood, or should I say Hollywood, even to this day. And the reason that you see Halloween being associated and attributed with the nighttime is because it worships and honors the dead, henceforth the graveyards, demons, full moons, bats, owls, ghosts, ghouls, goblins, as well as scary jack-o'-lanterns, which is also where scary stories originate from.
All right. Don't worry about him. I can handle him. Probably be a lot more of them as soon as they find out about us.
Just like the mask children wear every October 31st, Halloween itself has worn many different faces in its enchanting 3,000-year history. The Halloween we know today all started here, amid the rocky green hills and magical landscapes of Ireland. Centuries before Christ, a tribe of warriors called the Celts lived throughout the British Isles and northern France. On the rugged shores of the Irish Sea, the Celts formed an agricultural community. And like any people who lived off the earth, nature could be friend or foe. They were at the mercy of the elements, and winter was the scariest time of all.
Unto her we shall return like a drop of rain.
On Halloween, Chris Thompson's fellow pagans summon ancient deities to their Samhain celebration, a night for invoking the spirits of the dead and thanking the earth spirits for life.
Our Celtic fire wheel will be lit by a green man figure who represents the green fire in the darkness.
During the Celtic sacrifices and the rituals, common stories would also be told, as well as mythical folklore, and one of the stories that was commonly told was the story of Jack, also known as the Jack story, where Jack tricks the devil into agreeing to never collect his soul, hence Jack-o'-lantern. Of course, we have trick-or-treating, which is very common and prominent in America today. But what many do not know is that trick-or-treating actually comes from a term known as guising, which is the practice or custom of disguising oneself in fancy dress or often with a mask and visiting people's homes and houses in order to exchange for food and drink, which is what the Celtics have done thousands and thousands of years ago, even to this day, even as we see done today on Halloween night.
We're in here now. You know a place back down the road called Beekman's? Beekman's Diner? Anyhow, that's where I found that truck I have out there. There's a radio in the truck. I had jumped in to listen to it when a big gasoline truck came screaming right across the road. But there must have been 10, 15 of those things chasing after it, grabbing and holding on. I could just see that the truck was moving in a funny way. And those things were catching up to it. The truck went right across the road. Slammed on my brakes to keep from hitting it myself. It went right through the guardrail. I guess the driver must have cut off the road into that gas station by Beekman's Diner. It went right through the billboard, ripped over a gas pump, and never stopped moving. By now, it's like a moving bonfire. Didn't know if the truck was going to explode or what. Still hear the man screaming.
We were riding in the cemetery, Johnny and me. Johnny. We came to put a wreath on my father's grave. Johnny, and he said, "Can I have some candy, Barbara?" We didn't have any. And
in here. Hot. And he said, "Oh, it's late. Why did we start so late?" And I said, "Johnny, if you'd gotten up earlier, we wouldn't be late." Johnny asked me if I were afraid. And I said, "I'm not afraid, Johnny." And then this man started walking up the road. He came slowly, and Johnny kept teasing me and saying, "He's coming to get you, Barbara." And I laughed at him and said, "Johnny, stop it." And then Johnny ran away. And I went up to this man, and I was going to apologize.
Why don't you just keep calm?
And I looked up, and I said, "Goody." And he grabbed me. He grabbed me, and he ripped at me. He held me, and he ripped at my clothes.
I think you should just calm down.
Oh, I screamed, "Johnny! Johnny, help me! Oh, help me!" And he wouldn't let me go. He ripped. And then Johnny came and he ran and he fought this man. And I got so afraid. I ran.
The Druids had built these huge human-like effigies. I mean, they were 20, 30 feet tall, and they had cages built in them. This human effigy was known as the Wicker Man. Now, the Wicker Man, as I said before, resembled that of a human being, and there were various cages running throughout it where they would put animal offerings, some had food offering, the rest of it were where they put their human sacrifice offerings. They put them inside of the Wicker Man. Then afterwards, they would call upon their god, one of their false gods known as Kurnanos. And one thing I forgot to mention, if they didn't have enough room inside the Wicker Man to put all their human sacrifice offering, they had human cages made out of wicker where they could put the rest of it. But what would happen, you know, the Wicker Man would eventually be engulfed in flames. And this is where and what would happen to those people who was offered up as a human sacrifice on the nights of Samhain. This was their eventual fate. And what troubles me greatly today is that in the Nevada desert, since the year 2000, an annual event has been going on. It's known as the Burning Man. It's still the Wicker Man. What they are doing, ladies and gentlemen, these pagans from across the nation are coming together once a year on particular dates and setting up the old occult practices. One of those practices is that of the Wicker Man. Now, no one gratefully has been offered up as a human sacrifice offering, at least not to my knowledge. Now, no one gratefully has been offered up as a human sacrifice offering, at least not to my knowledge.
This is the actual man running into the building at Burning Man. One of my subscribers, Moral Compass, just sent this to me. Check this out. Pay attention, watch this. And that's what happens when you go and take hallucinogenic drugs, worship demonic entities, clearly, without a doubt. I mean, you can say whatever you want. This is just people doing it's evil people doing evil things, which is why all the celebrities are now drawn to it. So Burning Man has lived up to its name. This person was probably, I would guess, guided by the voice in his head. As you can see, they're pulling him out right here. These people don't seem too concerned, and the effigy goes down. So there you go, an actual, literal human sacrifice at Burning Man. This is what this world's come to. Now, this happened in September. So this is just perfect for the elites. This is just ideal. Someone literally gave their life at a evil, satanic ritual.
Right here, as we're saying, this is from the New York Times. This is, I believe, September 17th. This is the year 2000, in which the revival of the Burning Man, or the Wicker Man, has begun. You will notice all it is, it's the same practice, it's just, a different rendition of that human effigy. And yes, it does give me cause for concern. Because, among other things, where these people are gathering, the ancient animal, the totem animal for Nimrod, the golden cow, has also been reconstructed. This is the same creature that the Israelites had fallen down and worshipped at the bottom of the mountain of Sinai when Moses had vanished. And Aaron was forced to make a golden cow for the people to worship. During the nights of Samhain, even to this very day, the belief is that the veils that separate the spiritual world from the physical world are at their thinnest, and that they can, during these days, these nights, departed souls can come and visit their loved ones. Now, this is only done once you light the great bonfires, or what's known as the bale fires. Once these bale fires are lit, they act as a beacon to those departed souls in the spiritual realm for them to focus on. This will allow them to cross over and enter into our world. But the problem here is no one and nothing says that these spirits that are crossing over are going to be benevolent or good spirits. Nothing guarantees that. So what the Druids came up with, they first would devise these headgear and masks that was absolutely horrifying. They looked like demonic creatures, and they painted these symbols and other things on their robes. And all these things were supposed to keep those malevolent or bad spirits in check. And of course, we have those things nowadays. This is, of course, where the origin of the Halloween costume comes into play. Halloween is nothing but the recreation of the worship of Samhain, the Celtic Lord of the Dead, on his high and holy days. When we take a look at Halloween for what it is, well, kids are dressed up in these costumes, so are grown-ups. They go out trick-or-treating, don't they? And they demand a sacrifice. They get candy for it. Afterwards, well, they go home, and there will be these huge festivals like the Druids were doing, and they will be playing the same game, except we call it bobbing for apples. Instead of, throwing it into a cauldron that's boiling at 212 degrees, we'll put it into a cauldron or into some other vat or something with cold water and have the people dip their heads in it and get it that way. It's the same thing, though. And so the practice of bobbing for apples still continue on today, except in a much easier format, if you would. But these things are still going on. some people will say, oh, well, none of this really goes on anymore and that it's harmless and all this. Well, you see, this one photo that I brought is a photo of Stonehenge. Now, what most people don't realize is that this Stonehenge is in an area of Washington State known as Maryhill. This, believe it or not, had been built back in the 1900s, the early past, to honor those people who died during World War I because they fought in Europe. Well, personally speaking, I don't think I would want that as my own memorial because it's nothing but the ancient reconstruction of a site where human sacrifice had been practiced. To this very day, Christians will try to counterfeit Halloween by having what's known as harvest festivals. This is absolutely reprehensible. All we're doing is just giving it another name because people are still bringing carved jack-o'-lanterns. They're still giving out trick-or-treats, candies, and other things. They're still playing bobbing for apples. And I know of many of those places and Christian churches now that are still having Halloween parties at the churches where people come in these costumes. I know, I've seen it myself. We have got to make a decision one way or the other, my brothers and sisters. It's time we call it a halt to all this and say either I'm going to serve Jesus Christ all the way, and that doesn't mean you're not going to make a mistake or that you're not going to sin. It doesn't mean you end up perfect. But what it does mean is you're going to finally get out there and do something for the Lord, or you're just going to stay on this side and do nothing. Remember, the 3rd chapter of the book of Revelation talks about the Laodicean church age where most of the Christians will not be able to be used of God because they're lukewarm. They are literally fence walkers. They will not commit to the left or to the right. They are lukewarm. God cannot use them. They are of no good to him. So if you want to be used of God, you want to claim you want God's blessing, you claim you're a child of God, then you better do something while we still can, because I guarantee you right now, it is coming close to the end of history. It's coming close to where the Antichrist is going to arrive, and that there is indeed going to be great tribulation upon the face of the earth.
Reports from witnesses to the effect that people who acted as though they were in a kind of trance were killing and eating their victims prompted authorities to examine the bodies of some of the victims. Medical authorities in Cumberland have concluded that in all cases, the killers are eating the flesh of the people they murdered.